I had just graduated high school and I was 18 years old. I had been saving up money for almost a full year to finally get into my own apartment. My dad co-signed for me and I was ready to be on my own. The rent was reasonably priced and I was gonna have my own space. The apartment was only a short walk away from the college. I was about to be a freshman at the time, so a lot of the tenants were students that went to the same school. I met a couple of friends that shared similar interests, and we would hang out from time to time. There was this one guy, though, who always seemed weird. None of us knew who he was, but we always seemed to see him. It felt like no matter what we were doing, he would ride around on his bike every day, and we would always run into him one way or another. He would stare at us very menacingly, and we kind of wrote him off as the neighborhood creep. One night, when I was soft asleep, I woke up in the dead of night to sounds of yelling and screaming. The walls were paper thin, and that's why I could hear what was going on so well. It was very clear to me that it was coming from the apartment next to mine. My neighbor was a woman that was around my age, and all I could hear was her telling someone to leave over and over again. My first instinct was to knock on the door myself and see if I could be of any help to the girl, but the screaming died down shortly after, and I thought it was none of my business and it was best to stay out of it. I somehow managed to fall back asleep, and when I woke up in the morning around 8 o'clock, I had this sinking feeling in my chest that something was wrong. I made my way over to my neighbor's apartment and knocked on the door, and finally, after knocking 4 or 5 times and waiting forever, someone finally opened the door. They only cracked it open just a bit, just enough for them to peek their eye out and for me to see a small part of their head. It was dark in there, unusually dark, so I couldn't really make out who I was talking to. "Hey, everything all right in there?" I asked. The guy quickly grew defensive and asked me what I was talking about. I told him to cut the crap, and I straight up told him I heard what happened last night with all the yelling and screaming. He immediately shut the door and told me he had no idea what I was talking about, very angrily. I made my way back to my apartment, trying to figure out what I should do. I figured there was nothing I could do. I thought it was most definitely too late to call the police. So in a flurry, I decided to go back to my neighbor's apartment with the idea in my head that I was going to demand answers. I just had such a horrible feeling, and I couldn't just not do something about it. I knocked on the door once again, and the same person answered the door, this time much faster, and they opened it all the way. I was puzzled when I saw that it was the same creepy guy my friends and I always see around the neighborhood. "Dude, where's the girl, huh?" he said. "I don't know." I told him that I needed him to stop lying, that I needed answers. I then smelled this horrible foul smell that was leaking out of the apartment. I told them that I knew the girl that lived there and that I wanted to see her to make sure she was okay. He told me I was crazy and he shut the door once again. I was so frustrated at this point that I began kicking the door. I don't know if I was attempting to break in or not. It was all sort of a blur when it happened. I was just so angry. The only thing I could do was call the police and tell them everything I knew, so that's exactly what I did. Police showed up and they demanded entry, and what they discovered is next level unimaginable. They found the girl, whose name was Kaylee, and her body was all chopped up, with her arms, legs, and even her head completely dismembered from her body. I'm lucky I didn't have to see that, but ever since that day, my guilty conscience has been eating at me. There is not a single day that goes by that I don't think about this and beat myself up for what happened. Knowing I could potentially save her life is what hurts the most. The amount of shame I've felt and carried with me for the past 5 years has consumed me and completely changed me as a person. The man who killed her is now sitting in prison, by the way, and received a death sentence for what he had done.